Peace. What's good? How y'all doing? This is ZaZaAli. Today is Wednesday, August the 17th, 2022. I pray that this message reaches you all in the best of health, spirit, and mind. This is the official soft launch of my upcoming weekly news series, Headline News with ZaZaAli. I'm still working on the title. Headline news just doesn't do it for me. I was thinking about righteous news, but that's corny. So you guys in my membership channel, if you have some suggestions for me, something that flows, I'm a wordsmith, so I like to put um, dope words together. So if you guys can help me come up with something that flows, that has a rhythm to it, but that also expresses this is going to be a headline news show, I would definitely appreciate your feedback. You can post that information in the group channel. But I am your host, ZaZaAli. Thank you so much for joining me today. This is going to be a weekly feature for my private membership channel. New episodes will appear every Friday, covering hot topics and important news stories nationally and globally. For this soft launch, and I'm doing a soft launch because I have a lot of things going on right now, including speaking this Saturday, August the 20th, 2022, in the Los Angeles area. I still have tickets available. If you are interested in attending, you can go to my website, ZaZaAli.com, or you can email me to get information on how to purchase tickets, or you can get the information in the description. But for this soft launch, I'll be posting the first half of this weekly news segment on my social media sites. And all weekly news segments from here on out will be available on my private membership channel. Once we officially launch, I will be doing these news segments in person, meaning not voiceovers. This is obviously a voiceover, but I will be doing these, really putting these programs together as an official news segment for my membership channel. So much love to everybody that is in the group that is supporting me. I appreciate you guys, and I promise you I have so much good content in store for you. So just keep rocking with me, keep banging with me. And then even though I'm not going to do this in this particular news segment, I will be, once we officially launch, ending the news segments with positive news stories and or interviews with select guests that can contribute a positive arc to the insanity going on in the world. Today, we're mostly going to talk about the insanity going on in the world. This is a collection of things that I've put together over the last couple of weeks in order to launch this program. So, weather modification, weather manipulation, some entertainment news stories, and some different things going on around the globe. So this is, again, just a launch. I don't want you guys to think that this news, this weekly news segment is going to be all negativity, but I have to keep it real. And I think that this is important. And I really wanted to do this because of the extreme censorship that I've been facing over the last 2 years, but specifically since the beginning of this year. It's been very frustrating for me and difficult to kind of get people to be informed and to let people know what's going on when I can't just come online and say what I want to say. I mean, whoever thought we would live in this time frame? This is literally Nazi Germany 2.0. How everybody is not concerned with the censorship, I have no idea. Even if you don't create online content or you don't do what I do, as I've continuously said, if you are not intentionally seeking truth, then you are by default living in darkness, because truth is being heavily censored, heavily, anything censored, hidden, fabricated, manipulated, deceived, etc., etc. We live in this world, not just me, not just the social media influencers, but this is for you to be concerned about as well. And unfortunately, because I understand how the human brain works, particularly in this 85-10-5 society, I do understand that the majority of people aren't really looking for truth. So that's what this particular news segment, this weekly segment, is going to be for the membership channel. Thank you so much to all of my members again, and thank you to everyone that is tuned in today. And I just want to reiterate that I'm going to have positive segments at the end once I officially launch, either doing interviews or covering specific sharing resources, covering specific things that are going on in the world that are good, things for us to look forward to. I personally am looking, to my next, where I'm going to pivot next in terms of where I'm going to actually put my flag. And so I have a lot of information in terms of how I've been researching and things that I've been researching to share with the membership channel. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. We have one vending spot left for Atlanta. I've already secured 2 vendors. So if you're interested, please email me, info@ZaZaAli.com. We have 1 vending spot left. And shout out to everybody who has purchased tickets for Atlanta and New York. Those tickets are doing very well. And I'm very excited to go and build with my people in both of those places because I have a lot of love there. And it's been a long time, I think 4, maybe 5 years since I've spoken in Brooklyn and in Atlanta. So I am appreciating all of the love that is emanating from, people being excited for me to come. All of the messages, the DMs, the emails. Yeah, I'm definitely appreciating and feeling the love. And thank you guys so much for supporting me. It really does mean everything to me. Last but certainly not least, again, I'm speaking in LA, the LA area this Saturday, August the 20th, 2022. So I'm leaving California in January. It is official. I have come here and did what I wanted to do. I got what I needed to get from here. I know what's coming, and I definitely don't want to be here when it happens. So if you live in this area and you've ever wanted to see me speak publicly, now would definitely be the time. Okay, and let's go ahead and get into this headline news with ZaZaAli, weekly news segment highlighting local, national, and global events, particularly those being censored by the mainstream media. Headline news with ZaZaAli will air every Friday exclusively on the ZaZaAli.com private membership channel. And just like that, my screen doesn't want to move. What's up, man? Oh, this is the last page. Okay, let me stop this. See, this is why it's good to soft launch. And let me see. Okay, there we go. And let me reshare my screen. Are we recording? Yes, we are definitely recording. Okay. New share. All right, here we go. Okay, so let's get into this. Girl in child pornography tapes allegedly made by R. Kelly expected to testify against the singer. Associates at Chicago trial said state. And this was reported by CNN. The girl allegedly seen in multiple child pornography tapes from the late 1990s having sex with R. Kelly is expected to testify. The singer has sex with her when she was 14 and recorded some of their hundreds of sexual encounters, prosecutors said at the start of Kelly and 2 associates' Chicago federal trial Wednesday. The tapes showing the alleged encounters were part of 2008 Illinois child pornography trial in which Kelly was acquitted after the witness declined to take the stand. Now nearly 40 years old, she is finally expected to testify using the pseudonym Jane, said Assistant U.S. Attorney Jason Julian during his opening statement. Jane's going to testify. Jane's going to tell you that it's her on the videos, Julian told jurors, that it's Kelly on the videos having sex with her. Now, I'm not going to read this entire article, but in the article, R. Kelly's lawyer is arguing that why is she changing her story now? We have sworn testimony where when she originally was questioned, she, demanded that it wasn't her. She was very emphatic about it. What's with the timing now? Why is she doing this now? And then there's 2 other defendants with him. I believe it was his manager and one of his other handlers, or he was the handler. I don't want to put all of that in here because I don't want to read all of it. But the thing that I really want to emphasize with this trial, I remember when all of this was going on and I was young. I never saw any of the videos, thank God, never was interested in seeing, especially when you tell me that somebody's urinating. Oh, wait, my screen is still paused. Okay, sorry. I don't know what it was sharing. What was it showing? Okay, see, this is why I need to do a soft launch so I can make sure that I have all these little kinks worked out. Hopefully it's showing the right image. Let me just double check and make sure now. I want to make sure that you guys get this information in the proper way. Okay, cool. So I was very young when this was all, kind of happening. I was hearing people bragging about seeing the tape, laughing about the seeing the tape, joking about it. It was like a whole hood sort of entertainment expo, right? And as I, thought back about this, not just now, but just when I was watching the whole, the documentary on Lifetime about him, I was thinking to myself, I never really heard anybody, any grown-ups talking about how sick this was or how savage this was, or, and I'm not just talking talking about in my direct surroundings. I'm talking about in the culture. There was no real strong, adamant, conversation for men and women alike. And I'm not saying it didn't exist. I'm just saying I didn't hear it, and I still haven't to this day, to be honest. Jay-Z and R. Kelly did a whole album together. They were on tour together, and yeah, there was some weird stuff that went on the tour, and Jay-Z ended up, not working with him after he was supposedly acting a fool during one of their shows. But why would you even, I know there was plenty of rumors going around that this dude was a child molester, and still Jay-Z decided to go on tour with him and make an album with him, right? And so this particular story just really underscores to me, there was people in Chicago protesting when he was arrested, standing up for him, sticking up for him. We always talk about how, it's the girl's fault, the parents sold him out, the parents should be tried. Yeah, the parents probably should be tried, but not before him. You know what I'm saying? And if you're one of those people, every time you talk about this story or you hear about this story, the only thing you have to say is, what about the parents? Then you're part of the problem too. And especially because we know if it was your child or your son or daughter, or excuse me, grandchild or niece or nephew, yeah, there's, fault from the parents and the people that were supposed to be protecting these children. But obviously anybody that would hand their child over to a serial child molester and psychopath slash narcissist could also probably be thrown into the conversation at this point, is obviously not a good parent. That's neat. That goes without being said. If these children had access to good parents, they never would have been in this situation. In the same way, boys who grow up in Chicago or in Brooklyn or in, Queensbridge projects, for instance, and end up selling dope and end up going to jail for killing somebody or for robbing somebody. And then, we could make that same argument. Well, where's the parents? Obviously, there was an issue. There's a gap somewhere. There's a void somewhere. We've failed our children. We continuously fail our children, especially, the sex trafficking world. I've, done presentations. I used to travel the country and talk about sex trafficking and the sexual perversion of our children. Now the perversion of our children is at an all-time high. I don't know if you guys know what's going on in these schools, but there's a lot of things. We'll talk about that in upcoming segments. But there's no real strong passion or urgency from the Black community in America in particular when it comes to this topic. None. And I remember when, let's see, what was it? Baltimore, Maryland, I think it was, on social media, they had posted, and I think it ended up being a mistake, but there was this big thing about 300 girls going missing. And don't quote me on the number because this was years back. And so all of a sudden, once this social media post goes up and it starts to trend that there's a whole bunch of Black girls in Baltimore, Maryland missing, and now everybody is mad at the police. Now everybody is mad at the mayor and the city and the government. Now they want answers. Now they want results. But how did you not know that there were 300 girls missing in your own community? So in one breath, the system is the enemy. And then in the next breath, we have these expectations of the enemy, right? And so in Chicago in particular, the whole city of Chicago, and when you watch that, what was it I watched? There was a sister who was a singer in Chicago. I think she was a gospel singer. I don't remember all of the facts, but I think this was in the documentary. She was very well known in the area, and she knew that R. Kelly was, casing local middle schools and high schools and looking for young girls. And she actually, if allegedly, I'm not going to say her name, I don't remember her name, but even if I did, I wouldn't say it. But she allegedly was creating an environment. I won't say handing the girls over to him, but creating an environment where he could meet up with the girls, in her proximity or in her, I think she had a school or something to that effect. Yeah, and he could meet girls there, right? So I'm just saying this to say that R. Kelly, there is a pandemic and an epidemic. Let me not say the P word, because I'm not even talking about anything pertaining to illness, but censorship, the Satan is always listening. Satan meaning artificial intelligence at this point. But we as a culture, we don't take this serious. And I have continuously in my, due to the things I've had to deal with personally in the quote unquote conscious community and otherwise, trying to be an intellectual, not trying. You see the type of stuff that happens when I start recording. I've been sitting at this desk for 8 hours and nobody's honked their horn. But we don't really respect the sanctity and the uniqueness and the divine attributes of girls and women. Our culture doesn't. I can prove that in 10 different ways. And so hopefully, not hopefully, but I think that this is a step in the right direction in terms of us really having a real conversation, the collective consciousness, how we allow these things to continuously happen. They estimate that somewhere between 60 and 75% of Black girls and Black women are molested from family members and people in their community. Not white men, not Asian men, Black men. And there's no collective emphasis or focus from Black men. I said collective, not individual. And I know there are good men all over the place doing good things, and they definitely get our support. But in terms of the collective consciousness, we have made no concerted effort to tackle this issue. So in terms of why now, because I see a lot of people, why are they just coming after him now? They know all the time. Well, I don't really think that's an important question, because whether they, if he did it, then he did it. But I also think, and I've been feeling this, I'm going to talk about this in a second in terms of Anne Heche. I think that the powers that used to be, quote unquote, I think they're getting off right now on the Ghislaine Maxwell, the R. Kelly, all of these exposés, so to speak, of child trafficking and child pornography and child rape, pedophilia, etc. Now, follow me here. Are they going to stop the big names from being names, the, Bill Clintons of the world? Of course they are, right? Because the power structure has to be maintained. But if you look at Hulu and Netflix, I'm seeing a lot of documentaries and a lot of movies and a lot of film centered around pedophilia. There's a lot of movies now that are showing, whether it's a true story or not, different circumstances all over the world where children are being, kidnapped, abused, raped, kept for long periods of times, sometimes murdered, sometimes abused, sometimes released, right? But they're exasperating and showcasing these cases. And I think that the Ghislaine Maxwell was a thumbing of the nose. Yeah, a thumbing of the nose to a certain extent by the elite. Yeah, sure, we'll put her in jail. Yeah, sure, we'll put her on trial. Because we kind of want you guys to know, because who's going to prosecute us? And I think, and I'm seeing this very arrogant, you know what I'm saying, kind of thumbing of the nose by these people. And so they're putting it in the film, they're putting it in the TVs, on television, they're putting it in the books, they're putting it on social media. I mean, the magnification of, sort of merging the LGBTQ culture and community with children is a serious issue, especially for me as a mother. And thank God my son is not a child anymore. Oh, thank God he's a young man now, right? But I just really want to underscore for all of us culturally that this is something that's going to be coming to the surface in not just, you know, celebrity culture, not just the global elite culture. Because, you know, we're going to talk about Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein, but there's psychopaths and rapists in Black communities all over this country, and not just Black community. I'm emphasizing Black because I'm a Black woman, and because obviously I'm naturally going to speak to our culture, and because R. Kelly is a Black man who was abusing Black girls and Black women. But there's obviously Chinese, Asian, Mexican, all of that. You know, in Thailand, they are so well known for a pedophilia tourist culture where men from all over the world go to Thailand to purchase and to pay for little girls and little boys. Okay. So when we talk about spiritual warfare, this is one of those things that's been laying underneath the surface that's getting ready to come to a head. So as I've been emphasizing the shock and awe of this hour and being able to wrap your mind around like this particular case, right? Imagine being a juror who's never seen any of this and having to watch this grown ass man urinate on a 14-year-old child. I haven't seen the footage. I don't know what she looks like. I don't know what her body looks like. I don't know how grown she looks, and I don't care. It's sick. And the fact that our culture, it was an urban legend. I was living in Oakland, and Durant Square is our flea market, right? It's like a swap meet. We don't call it the swap meet in Oakland, but Durant Square was our swap meet / flea market. They were selling DVDs and tapes. Was it DVDs? I think, yeah, it was DVDs. They were selling DVDs, and there was like an 8-part series of this particular, all of the videos, not all of them, but you know, there was a whole series of them. So it was like a hood urban legend. That is sick. And we have a lot of sick elements in our culture that are going to have to be flushed out. And this is one of them. So good riddance to R. Kelly, good riddance to all of the parents who sold their children out for fame, for money, etc. Good riddance for everybody who cheered this man on, who's still supporting him, etc., etc.
Bobby and Marla, it was amazing what happened out here at LA City Fire Department. I got to give it to them right off the bat. The men and women from this fire department, some of the most amazing. Vehicle into a structure, then that car catches fire. And when we say into a structure, I mean all the way in, almost coming out the other side. This house out here on Walgrove, right at the cross of Brookhaven, at Preston, you can see that T intersection. The best we can figure, that vehicle was on this street and made its way across, not stopping ever, through those hedges, through the front door, or through that front wall of this home, and lodged itself almost in the back. Then it caught fire. LA City Fire Department arriving here very quickly. They had this home with fire and knowing there is a vehicle inside there. Firefighters making an attack on that fire. Other firefighters trying to get into that building to get that driver out of that car. While all this was going on, they couldn't get to that car. They actually had to call in heavy rescue. That's what you see right there. They hooked up cables to that car, pulled it out. It's actually in that driveway. And then the driver, well, LA City Fire Department, their paramedics pulled that driver from that vehicle. We have tape of that, and then basically had him on a gurney. We weren't sure what the situation was there on his condition, but then as he made his way over to the ambulance, you see it right there. He jumps up out of that gurney. It was horrific, scary for a moment for everybody watching. And then the fire department, well, they had to sedate him and take him to the hospital. Right now, though, the structure is still standing. No other victims inside that home. But again, this happening out here in Palms this afternoon. Crazy thing to see for sure. But again, that no other injuries, and that driver now in the hospital. I'm Stu up in Skyfox. Back to you guys in the studio.
LA County coroner rules Anne Heche's death as an accident. The cause of death of actress Anne Heche was ruled an accident Wednesday by the Los Angeles County Department of the Medical Examiner coroner. This was 5 days after the accident. Heche's car crashed into a Los Angeles home and erupted into flames on August the 5th. After the accident, Heche experienced a severe anoxic brain injury, depriving her brain of oxygen, among other critical injuries following the crash, her family and friends said in a statement to CNN. She died Sunday after being taken off life support, according to a representative for her family. Now, I'm going to replay the very short clip of Anne Heche jumping up from this gurney, and then I'm going to give a little bit more context to this. The thing that is really, really awkward, look at how the firefighters, nobody is surprised to see her jump up. These don't look like surprised people who are trained in medical, who have history with dealing with, car crashes, or people who, made that, because obviously they thought that this was a fatal situation. Look at how they have her body wrapped up. And I was reading comments on, on the different videos, getting, different people's perspectives. And I saw some people saying, well, I was in a car accident and I was still moving, but I was extremely, I was extremely physically hurt and all of these different things. But look at how the firefighters surround the gurney when she pops up. They look like security. They don't look to be concerned with her well-being. No one looks surprised. And I don't really see for the building to be as burned as it was. I don't see any fire, any burn marks, and I know sometimes the skin takes time to, it takes time to actually show the rawness. But yeah, this looks very, very, very disturbing, particularly these firefighters. They look sort of like, you would think that a presidential security team would react. They don't look real. This looks like a movie. So this guy on YouTube said, here are my thoughts, take them as you will. I'm a former firefighter and EMT. Even if they determined she wasn't going to survive, there's always a chance of organ donation. They would have or should have had her totally immobilized. Neck protection, cervical collar, IV therapy, oxygen therapy, heart monitor, and more. They had none of that. Your body needs to be treated like they are trying to save you, no matter how grave the condition. Minutes and seconds are the difference between salvageable organs or not. I looked at some of the different articles that covered this. They said she was in a coma. When they took her from the hospital from the scene of the accident to the hospital, they reported immediately that she was in a coma and placed on a ventilator. And of course, we know ventilator, that V word now is deadly. If you watched my Kingdom Within series, then you understand what I'm talking about. This looks like a movie. And this woman looks like she's fighting for her life. I don't know if they sedated her. Maybe she was unconscious at some point. Obviously, she's, when they're first rolling her out, she seems to be, she looks like she's moving the whole time. Maybe she's trying to fight her way through the bag. But this is very, 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 very strange. Very strange. And of course, the conspiracy theory department is, she was sacrificed. And let me show the footage of the house.
What are you looking for? What did you guys use from the car at? When showed up? It was right about here.
That's where the car was?
Pull it tight.
We realize it's really good.
What do you got? 43.
85,320.
What did you guys use from the car at? When showed up?
It was right about here. That's where the car was?
Pull it tight.
We realize it's really good.
What do you got? 43.
85,320.
I know a lot of this might sound too conspiracy theory for some of you guys, but if it does, then you're not paying attention. I mean, 3 years ago, would anyone have believed that people would be taking shots to go sit in a restaurant and eat dinner, or go to a movie theater, or to get on a plane? No, you wouldn't have. None of us would have. it's still extremely odd. Well, they've relaxed the mandates at this point, but it's still awkward for me. I can remember going into a restaurant and not even thinking about it. And even though I knew the mandate was, I don't live directly in LA, I live right on the outskirts. So even when I knew the mandates, I still, I always find places where I can navigate that stuff, right? So it wasn't really a big deal for me. So I'm in LA one day, just randomly, going to handle some business. And I said, let me stop at Monty Burgers, vegan burgers. I love their food, right? I go in Monty's Burgers, and mind you, this is vegan food, but it's not really that healthy. You know what I'm saying? Like I understand I'm eating vegan fast food, right? I can treat myself every now and then, but I can remember, and so I'm going in and I'm ordering my food and I'm getting ready to pay. And she said for here or to go, and I said for here, and she asked me for my proof of Jim Jones juice, Black girl at that, and I was like, excuse me. She said, do you? And then I was like, wait, what? I was caught off guard. My whole recollection of all the insanity just completely escaped me, because all I'm trying to do is just get a burger and some fries and keep it moving, right? And so I kind of looked at her and I smirked a little bit. I was like, are you serious? So she points down at the table and she's like, yeah, it's right here. And she's showing me this scrappy looking laminated, you know, I just, order of demands and commands from Satan, right? And it just was a whole moment. And I was like, you know what? Never mind. She said, you don't want the food? You can still take it to go. Yeah, no, I don't think so. That's a little too Jim Crow for me. I can buy food here, but I can't actually sit down and eat it and enjoy it. You got me twisted. So I was just like, nope, never mind. And I walked out, right? But I'm saying all of that to say, who would have ever thought that we would be here? So if your spiritual discernment is not up to par, then this might sound too far-fetched for you. If you're not aware of the global sex trafficking industry, what was I was watching or listening to something. I don't want to say his name because I'm still in this part of this segment that's going to be on YouTube. But he basically was saying that 12 million children around the world are sex trafficked every year. That is an absolutely astonishing and mind-blowing statistic. So once you understand that, and once you have seen the proof and the verification, the FBI says there's 4 million pedophiles in America at any given time. And pedophiles do what? They molest children. So those 4 million pedophiles have at least 4 million victims, perhaps, we would assume, right? So that just looking at America, then, the rest of the world making up that 8 million difference, yeah, it's not really that far-fetched. So I think that we're getting ready to have to confront all of the evil and wickedness that's been happening beneath the surface. And I'm in LA. This is Babylon. So the fact that this happened here, and the fact that I was watching a video of Orlando Brown earlier today where he was talking about Diddy and a couple of other people. I perused through it because I was looking for something that I saved on my phone. So I watched the clip, I saved it because I'm going to go back and watch it. But this man looks terrible. They have completely sucked, pause, all of the life out of this brother. He's probably a victim of, they're probably beaming so many different frequencies at this man's brain. And not to mention, the drug use and all of that. Hollywood has completely decimated that man. Raz B from B2K, it's astonishing that so many people in the industry know what happened to him. Nobody will stick up for him. Nobody will vouch for him. And nobody really looks like, to me, is trying to get him help. Does he have issues? Sure. What child or person who was molested or raped doesn't? So the other part of this is that I'm seeing a lot of people saying, oh, she knew too much. She was doing a sex trafficking movie before her death, and that's why they killed her. Maybe. It depends on what she knew, because, working on sex trafficking doesn't necessarily. Jada Pinkett Smith did a whole expose about sex trafficking on CNN. Or did they try to kill her? And that was years ago. I think that, and to the point that I was, making before, I think that these people kind of want to know, they want, in their arrogance and narcissism, they want the world to know that this is going on. They're not really trying to be, the puppet master behind the scenes, a la the Wizard of Oz. I think they've come from behind the curtain now. So I think that they want people to know. They just don't want people to know the specifics in terms of the people at the top of the pyramid. So her working on a sex trafficking film, to me, is not necessarily evidence that, yes, sometimes the conspiracy theory, culture, there's not a lot of spiritual discernment. It's just talking and reporting information and trying to figure out what's lining up, right? That doesn't mean that that wasn't the case. It just depends on what she knew, right? Working on a sex trafficking film is not necessarily a reason for them to take you out, especially considering that Ghislaine Maxwell is still alive. And like I said, Jada Pinkett Smith did a whole expose on CNN years ago, which I talked about in an infamous interview that turned into something else. But yeah, and Jada seems like she's on top of the world outside of her own personal life fuckery. And excuse me for the language. This is news. I need to keep it clean. Even though I think that Jada and that whole Jada, Will Smith, Chris Rock thing was nothing but a ritual. And you guys have to understand, if you've seen the movie Manchurian Candidate, then you know that there's some levels of this that may not be explainable on the surface in terms of how these people are acting. But if you look at it from the control factor and the mind control MK Ultra spectrum, then yeah, it's very foreseeable. A lot of these celebrities, dare I say, most of these celebrities are NPCs or non-playable characters. Okay. And how do we know that? Because the world is going to hell in a handbasket. There is complete overhaul of deception, mass manipulation, and the people who have the most have the biggest responsibility and accountability to the people who help them get there. And what are they doing? Absolutely nothing, because they're afraid, because they understand that they have made a deal with the devil. When I say they, I mean to whom it may concern. I love Swiss Beats and Alicia Keys. I think their relationship is beautiful. I think they balance and harmonize each other out. But I can't help thinking when I look at them, because I follow them both online, I just, flaunting their wealth and flaunting the extravagance of their lives, which they've earned, to what extent, I don't know. Do I think that they should, that a singer should be making $1 million a show while a teacher makes $35,000 a year? Absolutely not. Do I think that the importance and the value of what Alicia Keys does versus someone who is, teaching a class full of students and helping them to learn, the basic fundamentals and, become whatever it is that they become? Do I think that what she does is more important or valuable? Absolutely not. Right? So I'm just giving a little bit of context to this. Nobody was surprised when she popped up. That was very strange. I looked at the news media from the beginning when it was first reported and just kind of watched how they talked about it. Sometimes the question is more important than the answer. So I was looking at the way that they were reporting on it. Originally they said she was in a coma. Well, if she was in a coma, how the hell did she pop up fighting for her life? And why were the people around her not surprised? So I haven't seen any, verifiable proof that they killed her. Well, we haven't seen any proof that they killed her, but just the whole conversation, yeah, they did it because she was doing a sex trafficking film. That's not really, we have to be more careful in our discernment and putting information out without real, context that sticks to the ribs. We could say, this is context, right? She was working on a sex trafficking film. They're trying to keep it all hidden. That could be context, but that's a surface level context. The deeper aspect of the context is, well, what does she know about the sex trafficking industry? Because I traveled this whole country talking about the sex trafficking industry. There's people, Sarah Cruzen, who is a friend of mine, who was committed to a year or life in prison. She ended up getting out. It was a whole big story with, in California. And now she's fighting against the whole sex trafficking industry, right? So there's not, and Heche isn't she's the tip of the iceberg. right? So here's what I want to put into context in order to close this out. These are my questions. They showed us the video of the inside of the house, right? Where's the video of the inside of the car? Where's the brake inspection? Because this woman is, for all intents and purposes, doesn't seem like she tried to brake at all. There should be skid marks from, whenever her common sense kicked in. Was she on drugs or not? All of that plays into it, but have the brakes been inspected? Is there video inside of the car? Was the car an electrical car? Because ding, ding, ding. Yeah, that matters. Was she in an electrical car? And did she take the Jim Jones juice? Well, why does that matter? Because if you watch my Kingdom Within series, then you understand that part of the technology from the Jim Jones juice is about taking the DNA signature of individuals and being able to match that with a frequency, or match the frequency of your individual DNA signature, and then using frequencies to be able to send signals and send messages. Okay, so those are my questions. That's the true conspiracy theorist / researcher / scientific minded metaphysics. That's what I want to know. I'm already past my time mark that I wanted to be. I'm at 43 minutes. I'm going to be very serious about my time frame when I do these segments. So please know that I did that intro. I kind of talked a little bit longer than I wanted, but I needed to introduce this in the right way and kind of give some context. So I'm already at 43 minutes. I was only planning on putting 30 minutes of this on YouTube, but there's a couple of more slides that I want to get into before I get into the, sort of conspiracy type stuff that could get me censored, or I already have a strike on my YouTube channel, so I have to be careful about that. But so this is I said this about the whole weed situation, that the timing of marijuana being legalized and how everything kind of from where it started to where it is now, I believe that was directly intended in order to nullify and to make the collective consciousness, especially in California, right, a place that could have the potential to, if the people's mindset weren't, gang goofy. Oh my God. And it's so gang goofy out here. It's insane. You guys know I'm not from LA, I'm from Oakland. So there's a different stream of consciousness there. And there's a small stream of consciousness in both of those places at this point, Black consciousness in particular. But there is a very large stream of consciousness now in both of those areas, in the Black community and otherwise, that is mentally, emotionally, and spiritually dead. And it took me coming back here to really be reminded and to really come face to face with that. So my point is that I believe that the timing of the marijuana legalization, as well as the opioid crisis, was intentional. So it's not just doctors that are, prescribing pills to make extra money, because they've been covered. And there's been no real true intuitive focus on stopping the crisis. Well, how you don't know that, ZaZa? Yes, I do. Because you've seen how they lock the world down for 2.5 years. When they want to go after something and focus in on something, they do it. And when they don't, they don't. This is from the whitehouse.org fact sheet addressing addiction and the overdose epidemic. Drug overdose deaths have reached a historic high, devastating families and communities. More than 104,000 Americans died due to a drug overdose in the 12-month period ending in 2021. Wait, what? In a 12-month period, from September 2020 to September 2021. And let's emphasize and highlight those dates, because we know what was going on during that time, right? More than 104,000 Americans died due to drug overdose from opioids. According to the 2020 National Survey on Drug Use and Health, 40.3 million people aged 12 and older had a past year's substance use disorder. Meanwhile, more than 4 out of 5 Americans who need treatment for illicit drug use do not receive it. Dr. Frances Cress Welsing said, anytime they give you a number, double it. And that's closer to the actual statistic. And I'm not just saying that because she said it. obviously her perspectives hold a lot of weight to me because she was a serious scientist and scholar in her own right. But because, and as I've been talking about what's been going on over the last 2.5 years, they continuously use statistics to lie to people. They use statistics to lie to you about the presidential campaigns. They are shaping and molding consciousness based on how many people they tell you are Democrats, how many people they tell you are Republicans. They constantly use statistics and numbers to manipulate the masses. In reaction to the steep rise in overdose deaths and the increasingly lethal drug supply, this is on the whitehouse.org website. The Biden-Harris administration has prioritized engaging and building trust with people who use drugs in order to save lives and provide care. For the first time, harm reduction services, which include naloxone, fentanyl test strips, and syringe service programs, are a federal drug policy priority. These interventions are saving lives in red states and blue states, as years of research have demonstrated. And of course, they made it sound all good, right? Fentanyl test strips, syringe service programs, but basically they've been handing out crack pipes and needles in areas with high levels of drug use and drug abuse. And it's so hypocritical and it's so just satanic to me, because there's no real emphasis to go to the root of the problems. The high levels of depression, the high levels of anxiety, all of these different mental and substance abuses, at the root of it all is a very complacent and dissatisfied population of people who have lost touch with their divinity, if these people have souls, right? Because NPCs, but it's basically putting lipstick on a pig. Mother lode of gold, a mixed blessing for Uganda. The Ugandan government recently announced a $12 trillion gold discovery, their recent announcement, of a $12 trillion gold discovery has generated a ton of domestic intrigue as well as a bit of foreign skepticism. That's because the $12 trillion amount is said to exceed the entire market capitalization of all gold ever mined in human history, according to a Canadian online financial newsletter, Pinnacle Digest. That discovery, reported to be 320,000 metric tons, presents an implausible amount considering world production is just 3,000 metric tons annually. The amount of gold suddenly available to be mined in a country slightly smaller than Oregon would no doubt create a precipitous reduction in gold value. Now let's just think about that for a second. You're telling me that there is a mass discovery of gold, the likes of nothing that the world has ever seen, and there are financial analysts, right, and quote unquote the powers that used to be, that are concerned that this could have a reduction in gold value. Maybe, or maybe it could provide wealth to people all over the world in a way that can't be controlled. You think people would rather have gold or cryptocurrency? That nowadays you never really know. And this was the thing that I was saying when I first started hearing about this, before I had really looked into it, was that they're going to try to find a way to take that gold and give the people cryptocurrency, which is the most blatantly ridiculous thing I could ever possibly think of, right? The question is, how should African governments, Uganda included, negotiate these contracts with the people who carry out mine technology, said Small. They're quoting Professor Small. I chopped out different pieces of the article. But Professor James Small, who I love dearly, is the one that they were interviewing for this article. That's where we are losing money. Everybody knows the gold is in the ground in Africa. They can just about tell you how much gold is there in the entire continent. The problem is our leadership. Do they have the skill, the will, or the knowledge to know how to deal with Western technocrats and business people when it comes to negotiating contracts on the raw material in the earth in Africa, he said. And they have proven that they don't, and that's the problem. And I'm going to go a step further I'm going to 100% agree with Professor Small, but then I'm going to go a step further and ask the question, why has Africa not figured out how to mine the gold on their own? Why? Well, they don't have the technology, they don't have the, you know, the equipment, they don't have the utilities. Well, then why haven't they figured out how to create the technology and the utilities to harness the energy? Has there even been a goal or a focus to do that? Or has it been, we have to find a way to work with the West in order for them to come in and help us mine this gold without stiffing us and raping us as they always do? That's the difference between the tenant and the landlord perspective. And most of our people, African and otherwise, the indigenous people, are operating on our land, meaning this planet, as tenants, while people of European descent, particularly those in power, operate as landlords. The landlord perspective comes in and mines the gold and gives you what they want to give you, and they take the rest. The tenant perspective is trying to figure out how to make deals with the devil in order to access its own natural resources. Gold has been being mined in Africa for a very long time. And if Europeans can figure out how to create the technology, how to create and harness the energy from the utilities, etc., in order to mine the gold, I can't figure out why Africans haven't been able to do that. It's unacceptable to me. And it doesn't have to be Ugandan Africans. It could be, you know, Mali, Senegal, Nubia, right? Kenya. We have, I always see people showing these, you know, the parts of Africa that are beautiful, that are under African control, right? Well, these countries obviously have established a means of wealth, a means of resources, a means of governmenting themselves and maintaining some sovereignty, right? Where's the push in Africa to stop operating like tenants and to start operating like landlords? That's my question. So of course, once I, you know, really started looking into this, I said, let me see where Uganda is on cryptocurrency, right? On April 29th, and this is a couple of months before that article that I just read, and obviously the Ugandan government already knew this became popular, but the satellites is how they determine where gold is, right? So this wasn't news to Uganda. They just made it public news, right? And I don't know if maybe they did a massive satellite search that uncovered this massive amount of gold, but they've known for a long time that there was gold there. And that's the thing that Professor Small alludes to. This is not new. This is not news. They're just putting it out there maybe to let the public know and let the West come in without them trying to rape or rob them, etc. But on April 29th, in its circular Bank of Uganda, as a regulator of fintechs, I'm assuming fintechs means financial technology, never says it in the article. Regulator of fintechs warned all licensed fintechs to desist from facilitating any cryptocurrency transactions, lest they risk losing their operating licenses. So I'm like, okay, somebody in Uganda got some kahunas. The circular's implication was immediate. Mobile money integrators halted all fiat to crypto transactions to heed to the directive. Consequently, cryptocurrency enthusiasts, platforms like Yellow Card and Binance communicated the same to their clients. Like any other investment, crypto has its risk, but Bank of Uganda's circular barring fintechs from facilitating any trade in cryptocurrency transactions was not backed by any data. And a risk assessment report conducted by or on behalf of BOU or Uganda to inform such a prohibitive circular. I'm way over time, you guys. I promise you, my membership channel, I'm only going to make these segments an hour. I'm already at 56 minutes. So this is going to be, again, a soft launch. So just bear with me because I don't plan on making these long videos, but I have to get through all of this. There's another issue I have is being able to condense the things that I want to talk about. There's so much to talk about. But doing this every week, I can kind of, consolidate and chop up the things and I have to talk about so much in one setting. But again, this is all information I've pulled over the last couple of weeks. Now, this is what's so funny here. Bank of Uganda's circular barring fintechs from facilitating any trade in cryptocurrency transactions was not backed by any data and a risk assessment report. In other words, they're saying, and I'm gonna say this in a nice way, the primitive Ugandans, the primitive Africans don't have any legitimate reason. This could probably help them or should help them, right? I'm adding extra to it, but I'm just saying, this is how these people think. We all know it. There was no data backed up in order for them to deny cryptocurrency being used on a mass scale in Uganda. Well, what about 320, what was it? Let's go back, $12 trillion in gold. Even if it was 50 billion in gold, why would you need to bring in a non-existent form of currency? Because it is a non-existent form of currency. And you notice that they use gold coins. That's a mind game. Because how many people who've invested in cryptocurrency have actually ever held a gold coin in their hands? And if it was a coin, if it ever does produce a coin, we can also all be sure that it won't be a solid gold coin, right? So this is how Satan works, giving you nothing, promising you nothing, giving you nothing, but expecting you to give everything in return. UN trade body calls for halting cryptocurrency rise in developing countries. This article was posted a week ago. The UN Trade and Development Body, or UNCTAD, has called for action to curb cryptocurrencies in developing nations in 3 private policy briefs published on Wednesday. Although private digital currencies have rewarded some individuals and institutions, they are unstable financial assets that can bring social risks and costs, the agency warned. UNCTAD said their benefits to some are overshadowed by the threats they pose to financial stability, domestic resource mobilization, and the security of monetary systems. Now, I'm not going to read all of this. Let's see which part. Recent digital, okay, I'll read the first part. The first brief, All That Glitters Is Not Gold, the high cost of leaving cryptocurrencies unregulated, examines the reasons behind the rapid uptake of cryptocurrencies in developing countries, including facilitation of remittances and as a hedge against currency and inflation risks. Recent digital currency shocks in the market suggest that there are private risks to holding crypto, but if the central bank steps in to protect financial stability, then the problem becomes a public one. Furthermore, if cryptocurrencies continue to grow as a means of payment and even replace domestic currencies unofficially, the monetary sovereignty of countries could be jeopardized. We know, just like I'm not reading anymore, I'm off script. We know, just like if Uganda was ever actually able to mine that gold and to bring it to the surface and to utilize it to help their country and their people and Africa as a whole, we know that that would also destabilize all of the national currencies, because now we actually have a real legitimate currency that African people control and not Europeans, right? But this is the point that I want to make, right? Because this is the people who are promoting and who are in the world of cryptocurrency are looking at articles and moves like this to, the central bank, as far as the central bank stepping in, right? And making the digital currency regulated and accepting it as an actual global means of finance or of currency. So everybody who's in that world is like, see, they're trying to come in and get in it. They're trying to mess it up. They're trying to take control. This was always the plan from the beginning. And if you're only looking at cryptocurrency and you're ignoring blockchain and all of the other tentacles of the world that blockchain is affecting and impacting, including artificial intelligence, then you are doing a disservice to not only yourself and your children, but to all of us, especially if you have a platform where you are teaching people about cryptocurrency and promoting it as a means of real financial freedom and sovereignty. I don't ever try to get in the way of people doing what's in their own best interest, especially when it comes to working, business, finances, family, etc. We all got to take care of ourselves and do what we think is in our best interest. But there's a bigger play at hand here. And blockchain and cryptocurrency. In the Kingdom Within series, I show a patent that shows cryptocurrency and a biological sensor that would, and we know this is tied to the Jim Jones juice, right? A biosensor, meaning a internal sensor that goes into the skin tissues, the cell tissues, and monitors you from the inside, like a set of eyes, monitoring your whole entire bodily and brain functions, right? They have a patent and they have technology that can mesh your medical history as well as your medical status, a la the Jim Jones juice, and basically green light. This is not what I said in the video when I was talking about this patent, but this is my perspective on what it's for, to be able to recognize and to scan to see if you are in compliance. And if you're in compliance, you got the green light to use your digital currency as you choose. And if you're not in compliance, then you won't be able to utilize it. Don't really hear anybody in the cryptocurrency world talking about that. And this is all easily, readily accessible information. Florida court rules 16-year-old is not sufficiently mature for abortion. I'm going to stop the YouTube portion after this because I think after this is where we start getting into the conspiracy stuff. A Florida appeals court on Monday upheld a ruling that denied a 16-year-old an abortion out of concern she lacked the maturity to make the decision, despite her statements that she is not ready to have a baby. I don't know about you guys, but when I read news headlines now, it sounds like they're talking to somebody stupid. This is one of those articles where I read this and I think, yeah, they have a very specific demographic in mind. Because anybody with any intellectual discernment would look at this type of stuff and immediately your common sense should kick in, right? The teenager, described in court documents as almost 17 years old and parentless and identified only as Jane Doe 22B, had submitted a written petition seeking a waiver of the state's parental notification and consent requirements. Under federal law, an abortion generally cannot be performed on a minor without consent of a parent or guardian. This whole conversation about abortion is so laughable to me because there is a mass population undoing agenda happening in the world right now. Any young girl who is of childbearing age or who is coming into childbearing age that has taken the Jim Jones juice has a seriously high chance of not being able to produce life. It sounds difficult. It is difficult to even conceive, but we are really living in the handmaiden's time. And I went through all of that in the Kingdom Within series, so I'm not going to go too far into that. There was, okay, so we won't go, I'll pause there. There is another article that references, no, I can't get into that. I'm gonna stop here.